September 2008, the Dow dropped 777 points in a single day. Lehman Brothers, a firm 158 years old, files for bankruptcy. Trillions of dollars vanish in weeks. For most people, it was the scariest financial event of their lives. For a small handful of investors, it was the opportunity of a generation. This is not a video telling you how to predict the next crash. Nobody can reliably do that, including the people you are about to meet. Most of them got lucky on timing, even when they were right on the fundamentals. This is a breakdown of what actually happened, who profited, how they did it, and what principles, not predictions, we can actually take away from one of the most studied financial disasters in modern history.
To understand the opportunity, you have to understand the trap.
From 2000 to 2006, United States housing prices nearly doubled. Banks were issuing mortgages to almost anyone, including people with no income verification. These were called no income, no job, no assets loans. These risky mortgages did not stay on a bank's books. They got bundled into mortgage-backed securities, sliced into tranches, and repackaged into something called collateralized debt obligations. Rating agencies like Moody's and Standard & Poor's slapped AAA ratings on huge portions of these bundles, the same rating given to United States Treasury bonds. The system was effectively laundering risk. Bad loans went in one end, and so-called safe investments came out the other. A small number of analysts actually read the loan documents underlying these securities. Michael Burry, a hedge fund manager, spent months going through individual mortgage prospectuses and found adjustable rate loans set to reset to much higher payments on borrowers who simply could not afford the increase. Burry did not have a way to short the housing market directly, so he asked banks to create something new: a credit default swap on mortgage bonds. Essentially, insurance that would pay out significantly if these so-called safe bonds failed. Banks sold it to him almost for free because they genuinely did not believe it could fail. John Paulson did something structurally similar at a much larger scale, eventually generating roughly $15 billion in profit for his fund, one of the largest single trades in financial history. The common thread between these two was not a lucky guess. It was weeks and months of reading paperwork nobody else bothered to read, identifying a structural mismatch between perceived risk and actual risk, and finding instruments cheap enough that being early did not bankrupt them while they waited to be proven right. That second part matters enormously, and we will return to it. In March 2008, Bear Stearns nearly collapsed and was sold to JP Morgan for a fraction of its prior value, backstopped by the Federal Reserve. On September 7, 2008, the United States government took over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two giant mortgage agencies. On September 15th, Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy, the largest bankruptcy in United States history. The government chose not to intervene. The following day, American International Group, the insurance giant that had sold enormous amounts of credit default swaps, needed an $85 billion emergency loan from the Federal Reserve to avoid total collapse. From its October 2007 peak to its March 2009 bottom, the Standard & Poor's 500 fell approximately 57%. More than half the value of corporate America gone in 17 months. Unemployment peaked near 10%. Roughly 9 million jobs were lost. Nearly 10 million homes entered foreclosure between 2006 and 2014. This was not a paper crisis. It was a human one. Looking back, the investors who came out ahead generally fall into four categories. First, the short sellers like Burry and Paulson, who identified mispriced risk and used instruments that let them survive being early. Second, the bargain hunters. Warren Buffett invested $5 billion in Goldman Sachs preferred stock in late 2008, structured with a 10% dividend and warrants to purchase more shares at a fixed price later. He made a similar arrangement with General Electric. Both deals were only possible because these companies were desperate for capital. The retail version of this, buying broad index funds during the crash, also worked extraordinarily well in hindsight. someone who invested in a Standard & Poor's 500 index fund at the March 2009 bottom and held through the following decade would have seen returns most active traders never matched. But almost nobody actually did this in real time because March 2009 felt like the end of the financial world, not the beginning of a recovery. Third, the distressed asset buyers. Private equity and distressed debt funds, including Oaktree Capital, Apollo and Blackstone, bought corporate debt, real estate and entire loan portfolios from banks that needed to offload assets immediately to meet capital requirements. Oaktree's Howard Marks operated on the straightforward principle. When banks and forced sellers need to dump assets regardless of price, that is precisely when distressed debt buyers can demand the best terms available in a generation. His fund deployed roughly $500 million per week into distressed debt at the peak of the crisis. Fourth, foreclosure buyers. Investors with cash on hand purchased foreclosed homes at 30 to 50% below their 2006 peak prices, particularly in markets like Phoenix, Las Vegas, and parts of Florida. Many held these properties as rentals through the recovery and saw both consistent rental income and significant appreciation over the following decade. Each of these four strategies required something most people did not have during the crisis: available capital and the psychological discipline to deploy it. Here is what most retrospectives leave out entirely. For every investor who successfully shorted the housing market, there were others making the same basic bet who were wiped out because their timing was off, their leverage was too high, or their fund faced investor redemptions and was forced to close the position before it paid off. Michael Burry himself nearly lost his fund before the trade paid off. His investors were furious, demanding their money back, convinced he was wrong, months before the collapse actually happened. Being right about a crisis and surviving long enough to profit from it are two entirely different skills. Similarly, plenty of bargain hunters bought banking stocks in 2008 that they believed were cheap and watched them go to zero. Lehman Brothers itself looked inexpensive right up until it was worth nothing. Picking winners during a crash required distinguishing between companies that were genuinely undervalued and companies that were correctly heading towards zero. That distinction was genuinely difficult to make in real time, even for seasoned professionals. This is precisely why buying a diversified index during a downturn has historically outperformed individual stock selection during a crisis. The actual takeaways from 2008 are not about replicating specific trades. They are about durable principles. Do the boring work. Burry and Paulson won by reading loan-level paperwork nobody else wanted to touch. The edge was not a hunch. It was unglamorous diligence applied consistently over months. Survivability matters more than prediction. Being right early and being wrong can look identical for a long time. Position sizes and structures that let you survive being early matter more than simply being correct. Diversified buying during panic has historically outperformed individual stock selection during crises. Liquidity is a weapon. Buffett and the distressed debt funds won because they had cash available when everyone else was forced to sell. Maintaining dry powder during a crisis is itself a deliberate strategy, one that requires patience in the years before the crisis arrives, not just courage during it. And finally, nobody signals the bottom. March 2009 did not feel like a turning point. It felt like the world was ending. Every retrospective makes the bottom look obvious. It never is while you are living through it. The real lesson of 2008 is not simply to buy when others panic. It is to understand what you actually own, ensure you can survive being early, and remain deeply skeptical of anything that looks safe and pays suspiciously well.